I am a Jewish 21-year-old college junior from Los Angeles. A lot of people have expressed their shock about what's happened on college campuses in the last month, with students cheering the slogans of a genocidal death cult, professors celebrating Hamas's massacre, and, in certain instances, Jewish students being physically threatened and assaulted. But I wasn't shocked, and I want to tell you why. In high school, my homeroom had an exercise where we made a chart dividing various ethnicities, religions, and other identities into the categories of oppressor on the left side and oppressed on the right. Women are oppressed. Straight people are oppressors. Then we reached the Jew category. This being a high school in Los Angeles, many of my classmates were Jewish. I recall we skipped it altogether, but the chart of oppression stayed on the whiteboard. And I'm sure that if there were fewer Jews in that classroom, Jews would be put squarely in the oppressor category. Social justice theory became part of everything. My senior English class was not about great literature, but about readings and critical theory, which meant looking at ways to divide people by race, gender, and other characteristics. I had a non-academic weekly homeroom class in which we learned that white people are racist and men are toxic. In answer to the question, what is the most significant challenge that society faces today, on a college application, I wrote that it was identity politics. The teacher at my high school in charge of reviewing our applications scolded me, telling me that meant I was rejecting the advances of the civil rights movement. I changed it. In California, ethnic studies will be mandated at all public high schools by 2025. The curriculum that was first released was overtly anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. Sample lessons included the suggestion that Jews control the media and that Israel is an apartheid state. Jewish organizations had to organize to get this changed, but the final draft still carries the flattening of all people into the categories of oppressor and oppressed. It shouldn't be shocking that a generation that has been trained to identify and slot people based on their identities alone, and who are taught that violence against oppressors can be a righteous healing force, and yes, we are taught that, are take to the streets to shout these lessons. When you see young people tearing down posters of kidnapped children, this is why. They've been taught that those children are instruments of an oppressive group. I go to Stanford, and I want to tell you what it's been like both before and after October 7th. For my freshman and sophomore years, I lived in a dorm with the only kosher dining hall on campus. Last winter, a Jewish student in my dorm found that a portrait of Hitler had been drawn on his door. They never found the perpetrator. Soon after, swastikas were carved into bathrooms in the main quad. In a great books class I took my freshman year, we had a week-long unit on the Holocaust. That week, a student gave a presentation on how Zionism is a new Nazism and how Israelis are the new Nazis. The day of October 7th, Stanford students hung banners celebrating the massacre. On October 8th, before the IDF had even responded, new banners were strung up around campus, saying, "The illusion of Israel is burning," and "by any means necessary." Some of my classmates, people I live with and learn with, believe that the worst forms of barbarism are justified if they are against Jews. My fellow students posted on their Instagram stories, "Settlers are not civilians," and, quote, "Every martyr that fought today and in every moment against the occupation is so deep in my heart. A Jewish girl in my hall told me that her roommate hasn't talked with her since the attacks." In the weeks since then, at Stanford, an instructor in a mandatory class called Civil, Liberal, and Global Education asked the Jewish and Israeli students to identify themselves and then stand in a corner. He said, "This is what Israel does to the Palestinians." I went to a pro-Palestine rally at Stanford because I wanted to hear what was said. Students were chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." This is a genocidal slogan of Hamas, and it is calling for the elimination of Israel, which is between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. I asked a fellow student what she meant when she chanted this. After admitting she wasn't knowledgeable about the issue, she said that it meant Palestine must be free from the Tigris River, which is in Iraq, to the Black Sea, north of Turkey. The student, though she knew virtually nothing about the geography or history of this region, hadn't been taught enough to want to chant for the destruction of the world's only Jewish nation. All of this explains a poll released on October 23rd that found 64% of 18 to 24-year-olds think what happened on October 7th was a terrorist attack. 77% of us think it's true that Hamas terrorists killed 1,400 Israeli civilians, including entire families, and beheaded people. But when asked, in this conflict, do you side more with Israel or Hamas, 48% said Hamas. I'm 21 years old and Jewish. Apparently, 48% of my peers want people like me dead. It does not have to be like this. Reforms are possible and necessary. Lots of students say that the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, bureaucracy can adapt to protect Jews too. But the answer is not for Jews to try and fit into the DEI caste system, to beg for a higher rank in the new ladder of victimhood. That is a losing strategy, not just for Jewish dignity, but for the values we hold as Jews and Americans. What can we do? Return to American values. We are not being properly educated if our schools seek to pit groups of students against each other. We need education that teaches about the world in all of its historical complexity, not indoctrination and slogans that say everybody is a part of a group that is either all good or all bad. We need an education system that values knowledge, not that teaches millions of children to parrot propaganda lines. You may think that I'm exaggerating. I invite you all to come visit me at Stanford. Come with me to my classes. Sit next to me in the dining hall. Go to the protests and the teach-ins. You will see that, if anything, I am understating the situation. My Jewish parents raised me to know what is right and what is wrong. We honor and believe in the rule of law, free speech, and the belief that everyone is equal because we are all created in the image of God. Those aren't just Jewish values, they are American values.